Let's make some noise. Come on.
Thank you once again, Nick Folson. That's right. Let's make some noise, everybody. Welcome back to the Final Word with MattyB here on the It's a Rap Sports Network with your host, me, MattyB, on the call tonight, Tuesday, October the 14th, 2025. A sleepy night in Philadelphia sports. This is one of the massive byproducts, the negative byproducts of no Phillies baseball. We're going to have a lot of nights like this, and, it sucks. Now, there is baseball on tonight, of course, but, not Phillies baseball, and there's something wrong with that. And, of course, still stinging a lot of bit from their premature exit from the postseason this year. The post-mortem has begun. Yeah, the Phillies decided, today officially, because we talked about it last night, the reports were swirling that Rob Thompson was returning. Well, the Phillies made it official today. He will be back in 2026 for one more year. Right now, as a lame duck manager, no contract exists for Rob Thompson beyond this year. Does that change? Did they give him a one-year deal, one-year extension? And if they don't, remember the last time we did this was in 2022 with Joe Girardi, and you saw how that all worked out. So the drama that was and is the Phillies this year continues, even though there's no more games to be played. And that drama, of course, will continue to play out here on this show for at least the next 4 months. You've got to get to spring training. MLB has not yet announced when spring training will be officially, or the Phillies have not announced that. But always around that Valentine's Day area. So we're going to continue our autopsy, if you will. Not so much an autopsy, a reconstruction project. That's what I want to call it. I don't want to call it an autopsy because we've done that enough. We've already explored up and down about how or about what happened. We've already done that. So we're not going to continue to kind of, kick that mule. But we are going to begin to reconstruct the Phillies for 2026 in my mind, in Matty B's image. That's right. Matty B's image. We're going to try to reconstruct the Phillies. And that started last night when we introduced our brand new segment for this postseason off. I keep calling it a damn postseason. For this offseason, which is called the Phillies offseason. Who stays, who goes, and why? Where we take a player a night, a position a night, whatever you want to call it. We make an argument about why that player should stay or go and why. And if we decide he should go, which we'll probably decide on just about every player that needs to go, we're going to throw out some candidates to take over that job. Last night was the manager, and of course, the Phillies stole some of my thunder by already kind of leaking the news that he was going to stay. So, but we did it anyway, and we all came to a consensus that we want Rob Thompson gone. And I think the top three candidates that we all decided upon was Don Mattingly, Dusty Baker, and Bruce Bochy. That is a moot point. We knew that going into the exercise last night, so we can put that to bed. It's going to be Rob Thompson. But tonight we're going to continue with this exercise, and we're going to go to first base. So first base tonight will be the position we talk about. We'll talk about who currently resides at first base. Should he stay or should he go? And and what are some of the possible candidates that might come in and replace him? So we're going to continue on with that segment. The Eagles continued their preparations for Sunday. The coordinators and the coach spoke today. And one of the things that I took from that presser, or when the coordinators and the coach spoke, was not necessarily what they said, because they're never going to tell you anything anyway. You're never going to get anything out of them, and rightfully so. I would not open myself up to that if I was a coach. But what I took from it, and I'm not necessarily saying it's completely a byproduct of what happened today, but there seems to be a cooling phase going on amongst a lot of Philadelphia Eagle fans. Just 6 weeks ago, it was Dynasty City. We are on the dawn of a Philadelphia Eagle dynasty. There's nothing stopping us. 15-2, 14-3, Going back to the Super Bowl, no one can stop us, and we will be living in an Eagles dynasty. That was the flavor about 6 weeks ago. Now I'm getting a lot of the back off. Now I'm hearing a lot of the rumblings of, yeah, maybe it just ain't the year. Or I'm okay with the Eagles not necessarily hitting this year. It's okay. We still can, we still won 2 Super Bowls in the last, 7 years. Does it matter? Can't win them all. Hearing a lot of the tepidness starting to creep into the lexicon of the Eagle fans. And I find that very funny. I find that extremely funny. We are only 6 weeks into this. Now, the football team looks lost. I give you that. But we've seen crazier things happen in the National Football League as the season came down the stretch. And then we are far from the end of that. I mean, we're 6 weeks in. The Eagles are 4-2. The season is still very much in front of them. And they still are one of the better teams, if not the best team, until somebody else proves otherwise, in the NFC, in all of football, actually. So we're going to talk a little bit about Eagles fans and their flip-floppiness tonight, and how I can honestly tell you I'm not one of those guys or gals. I'm not one of those fans. I'm pretty damn consistent, and that's something that I like. I like that about myself. So that's on the table tonight. We got our day in Philadelphia sports history. We got our card review. We also got our of the night segments. Everything that we normally do on the show, and anything else that you guys want to bring to bear tonight is absolutely okay with me. It is your dime. I am just here. So let's get rolling. But before we do, let's look at the schedule here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network for this week. Today, a quiet day, as the show title states. Me was it. That was it. I was the only one on the air today. The entire network was black today, but me. Tomorrow, though, we'll get back into this as we get to the midweek, and some of our shows will start returning. Props, locks, and parlays, the Pittsburgh Sports Desk, and me, the final word tomorrow. On Thursday, a huge night, starting with the Steel City Pittsburgh pregame show, Pittsburgh Steelers pregame show at 4:45-ish, as the Steelers will be battling the Bengals on Thursday Night Football. Then the Birds Blast with me and Kyle Quinn at 7. The Gridiron Weekly at 8. We got the Clear the Ice Flyers and Jets, me and the final word, and then the post game between the Steelers and the Bengals as well. That is all happening on Thursday. And Friday, it's the wraparound. And Saturday, you got the Attacking Third, Penn State, Iowa, and Flyers Wild Clear the Ice post game. So we've kind of hit the midway point of the week, and we'll get things rolling again. A little programming note here on the final word. The people that make this show possible sat down and had a meeting today, which is just me. I had a meeting with myself, and we've made a decision that starting on November 9th, that's right, November 9th, put this in your calendars, we are going to switch the start time of the final word from 10 p.m. to 9 p.m. We're going to our winter hours starting in November. Partly the reason that we are on at 10 o'clock is to kind of allow post-game shows on a nightly basis, i.e. the Phillies, kind of run their course. I don't want to jump on a post-game show or step on a post-game show. So the 10 o'clock hour was a good time to sort of flex there and to not have that happen often. Now that the Phillies are over and that, unfortunately, nightly baseball or nightly sports, 6 nights a week, 7 nights a week, it's going to go on hold now until sometime in late March. We're going to go down and we're going to switch our hours to 9 o'clock, still Sundays through Thursday, but it'll be from 9 to 10, not 10 to whatever we've been doing, hour and a half-ish. So that's a little bit of a scheduling programming note. November 9th, that will start here on the show. So we're moving down earlier in the day, right? Going to come out of the midnight hour and go down into the clean world for a while and see how I can hang out there. Hey, everyone. Joe Hale, how are you doing? Only Rob Thompson's coming back. Joe, that has not been confirmed. I have actually been looking at that all day. Right now, the Phillies are saying the entire coaching staff is coming back. Obviously, I don't think that'll be the truth either. But there has been no official announcement that I can see that states that the coaching staff has not been retained. The only announcement I can see from MLB baseball and from the Phillies, and they're not really even saying much about it, is that his staff will be back as of right now. So I'm sure things will change as we move forward. But as of right now, I have seen nothing to confirm that or deny that, I guess. So you might be right, but I haven't seen anything to confirm that. So Rob Thompson will be back along with his coaching staff at this point. Again, nothing that I've seen can confirm that his coaching staff will not return. So, but hey, that's going to give us more time to talk about that when it does happen. So let's get it going here on the program. Let's strap it in, strap it on. Let's begin. Keep your head, hands, and feet inside the car at all times. And here we go for your day in Philadelphia sports history. October 14th, back in 1979 on this day, with a 4-3 win over the Maple Leafs in the third game of the season, the Flyers began one of the most successful stretches in Philadelphia sports history. Over the next 34 games, the Flyers did not lose. Putting together 2 consecutive months without a loss, November and December, the Flyers racked up a 25-0-10 record, smashing the league's previous unbeaten record of 28 games by the Canadiens of 77 and 78. They finally dropped one in January 7th of 1980, but it didn't slow them down. Through the first 60 games, the Flyers were a video game-like 41-4-15, and even started the playoffs with a 6-game winning streak before ultimately bowing out to the Islanders in the Cup Finals. So back when hockey was actually a pretty hot commodity here in the city, and that was in that mid-late 70s time frame, and into the 80s too, into the 90s as well, we actually used to have dominant hockey here. And this was a historical day for the Flyers, or actually not historical, but the beginning of a historical run as the Flyers started the 79-80 season off with a 35-game winning streak, and it all began on this night back in 1979, their third game of the season. So happy the beginning of a 35-game winning streak for the Philadelphia Flyers Day, everybody. And that is your day in Philadelphia sports, brought to you by the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, the quintessential and Eagle pregame show entertainment. Me and Kyle every week, Thursdays at 7. We'll talk about the game that was and also look at the game that will be. Weekly here on the network at 7 p.m. That's a fluid start time. Could be at 7, could be at 5, could be at 3, could be at 4, could be at 8, could be at 6, could be Friday, could be Saturday. But I'm not going to write all that on an ad. So Thursday at 7 is what we're going with here. Now, of course, Kyle was not here last week as I soloed on the Birds Blast, and it was a, cathartic show for me as I actually, and then you can go back and check the tape. I said this game, or the game against the Giants, and me and Kyle, I'll have some, matter of fact, because the way we do the Birds Blast, we talk the game before and the game after. I haven't had the chance. So last time me and Kyle talked, I was in a hotel room in Birmingham, Alabama, and the Eagles were 4-0. So we haven't even talked about the 2 losses yet. So obviously that's going to be a driving point of the show. See how where Kyle's resilience is these days. Now that they're 4-2. But on the Birds Blast this past week when I soloed, I took the Eagles to lose 28-20 because I heavily believed in the trap theory. I thought that that game against the Giants had trap game written all over it. And I was absolutely right. Now, of course, 28-20 was nowhere near what the score was. It was a lot more one-sided than that, 34-17, and it could have been 48-0 if you really think about it. But still, trap game it was, and I selected it correctly. Kyle had the Eagles winning the game 23-13. He took Cooper DeJean as his game MVP, and I took Jackson Dart. Now, we'll argue the point tomorrow night or Thursday night if whether we give it to Jackson Dart or Cam Scatterbo. One of those two will probably be the consensus MVPs of that game. But we'll have to tune in to see which one gets it. That's the Bird Blast with Kyle Quinn every Thursday at 7 here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Rumors are going around that the Flyers are bringing back the black jerseys. That's the black jerseys. They had them back for a while. They used them last year. Isn't that the alternate jersey? Went to a game last year. Was it 2 years ago? 2 years ago? Where they wore the black jerseys on a Saturday game? Maybe it's a different black jersey that I'm thinking of. It's the or is it the black jersey with the white shoulders? You talking about that black jersey? I haven't heard that. That'd be cool. I wouldn't mind seeing them again. But the All Blacks, they wear them all the time. But are you talking about the ones that had the white, shoulders? Those like first alternate jerseys from way back in the day? They'd be cool. I'd love to see that. All right. So I guess we can go with the Phillies. Let's get into our new segment here on the program because it's a fun little exercise that I've been doing. Phillies off season. Who stays, who goes, and why? We started it last night with Rob Thompson. The consensus was he goes, but of course we were doing this with the information knowing that he was staying. Tonight, we're going to start in on the position players, and we're going to start in on the actual players. And of course, first base will be the first one. That's how I'm a creature of habit, creature of order. We're going to start at first base, as you should always start at first base. I guess you can make an argument you start a catcher or a pitcher. I don't know. But we're going to start at first base. And, of course, we all know who the occupant of first base for the Philadelphia Phillies is and has been for the last 7 years. That's one Mr. Bryce Harper. Now, Bryce, before I get into this, I do want to lay down some ground rules about this little exercise. This is how I see it, right? Now, and when the end of this, when we go through all these players, and we will go through them all, we'll go through all the positions. We'll go through the 5 starting pitchers. We'll go through a bullpen. We'll go through a bench. We'll do it all. And then I will present to you MattyB's projected 2026 Phillies lineup. And it's already done. As I said, I've already completed that. But this is how I see it. This is if MattyB was driving the train for the Phillies. This is what my vision of this team. And before we get into these players, I want to present you my vision of what the 2026 Phillies are going to be, so that it doesn't take people completely off guard. So, the first ones. Yeah, with the white. Yeah, that would be a bad jersey. I have one of those, actually. Bryce Harper comes back, but I want him gone. And then Joe kind of beat me to it, but let's kind of lay this thing out right now. So, my philosophy, if I was the GM or the president of baseball operations for this baseball team, is very simple. I do not believe the window of winning is closed. I 100% do not believe. But what I do believe is that the formula we've been working with over the past 4 years just is not going to work anymore. We got to take some chances. We got to change some things. I said it all during the season. I used the phrase changing this team's DNA. That's exactly what my offseason would include for this baseball team. I want to change their DNA. I don't want to run out 9 of the same players who have the same mindset about swinging for the fences. I don't want to do that anymore. It doesn't work. Now, there's some constraints to that because you just can't wave a magic wand and poof, you're going to have a whole new set of players. It doesn't work like that, especially with the contracts. And that's a real thing that fans need to really understand. And again, this is my philosophy. This is what I think they're thinking about down there. They need to change, but they're going to be restricted outside of the organization on how they can change. Not to say that they can't change outside the organization. Not to say they can't bring in free agents. Not to say that they won't, they will. But the drastic changes that I think a lot of people are wanting may not come from outside. They may have no choice but to go within the organization to my favorite part of any baseball team. And that's the minor league system, folks. We've heard it for years. We've heard it, how the minor league system in the Phillies have undergone a facelift. They're back to being competitive. They're back to being a reputable, valid type of thing. And there's some apples down there that are ripening on their trees that are ready to be picked. And if we want to change, if you want to take away some of the poison apples, let's use apples right now. It's the fall, right? It's applicable. If you want to take away some of them poison apples, why not replace them with fresh off the tree, blank slate kind of apples that are starting out in their careers? That's the change I think is going to happen majorly within this team. If I was in charge, it's time to infuse the young talent into this baseball team, because there's 5 players. And I'm not going to, I'll reveal them as we go through this exercise. But there's 5 players that are currently in the Philly minor league system that I want to play a part heavily in 2026. That's where the DNA change comes from. It comes from taking away some of these curmudgeon older veterans who are stuck in their ways, counting their money, doing things the way they want to do. And you take them out and you infuse some of the younger players. It's time. Because I honestly, and listen, I'm not telling you it's my philosophy, because, these players, the 5 that I'm going to talk about, have been clanking on that door, trying to bang it down. No, some of them probably could stay in the minors for another year. Some of them could. And I would know. I follow them Phillies minor league system pretty closely. Some of these guys that we're going to talk about is going to be a complete leap of faith that they can convert their game to the next level. But in the budgetary restraints of the Phillies, and yes, Ruben Amaro said that he feels, one of these big contracts might get moved along. He could see that happening. He's not speaking from any sort of insider knowledge other than the fact that he's been a GM and he probably thinks that this could happen. You could make it happen. And this would be part of the breakup and the change that this team needs to go through. I'm operating more on the reality side of it by saying it's going to be damn near difficult to get off of some of these big contracts. And when I say big contract, I don't necessarily mean the money. I mean the years. Nobody in this plane of existence, in my opinion, is taking Trey Turner off your hands. Nobody's taking Bryce Harper. No one's taking Zach Wheeler. No one's taking Aaron Nola. Those are the contracts right now that are strangling this team. And I don't think you're going to be able to move off those contracts. It's just not reality-based. And I'm not going to waste my time in that line of thinking. Now, if they can, well, it's reason number 85 why I'm not a GM in baseball, right? But in this exercise for me, and what I would want to see, if you want to start over, and again, maybe I should not say that. If you want to change, not start over, because this is not a rebuild. I agree with a lot of people out there. We don't have to blow it up, but you do have to scatter some things. And I'm not telling you to break up the core. Absolutely not. Now, when I say core, I mentioned those 4 contracts. That's the core to me. Everybody else is on the table. So, infusion of young talent. And you know what? If it works, if it doesn't, back to the drawing board, and then maybe we look at some things for next season, because maybe we have a little bit more flexibility next season. I don't know. Or maybe you decide it's time to blow it up. That's one of the reasons why I'm going at it that way. The other reason is the free agent market itself. Listen, there's a lot of older players out there that are going to demand a lot of money. And I don't know if they fit the timeline. I don't want to explode this already very tight budget and this already large payroll with more, just so that we have one last, put all the eggs in 2026 and pray to God we win a World Series. And then after that, let's dismantle it all and go back into a 5 to 6 year period of terrible baseball. I don't want to do that. And that's kind of lines up with my theory about the Eagle fans. A lot of them, are chilling down about their expectations about a dynasty. That is wrong. Don't stop pushing the dynasty narrative, because that's what it's all about. It's about sustained winning. And on the baseball side of things, I don't want to go all in 2026 and bring in, 7 or 8, or maybe not that many, but like 4 or 5 high price guys under, heavy upfront contracts, 2 or 3 year deals. I don't want to burden myself with that. I want a transition from one core to the next core. That's how it really should be done. Dodgers have done it. The Braves have done it. The Yankees were doing it for a little while. Teams have been known to do that. You don't have to go all in and then drop a grenade and say, yeah, we tried. It didn't work. So now we're going to do 2013 to 2018. I don't want to go back to that. I don't have the strength for that. So I think in infusing the young talent now, starting this year, you begin that transitional period. And hopefully, if the players hit, now that's a big hope, and that's a big, then we don't have that problem, and maybe we steal a World Series championship, because there's certain things still in place here that every world champion needs. And the one thing, the glaring thing, is the pitching. The pitching is still next level with the Phillies, in my opinion. So as we move through this exercise, keep in mind MattyB's philosophy. All right. Now, I'm not saying bring up the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs and put Bryce Harper on them and then let's roll. I'm not saying that. I'm going to be realistic about it. But there's 5 players that I think should be part of the Phillies team next year that are coming from within. Now, there's additional players that are coming in from the outside. Again, we need verified MLB talent. We do, to help sort of steer this. But you got to start infusing that young talent now. And we'll start tonight with first base, baby. First base. If somehow Harper goes, I want Panda Bear. Polar Bear, not the Panda Bear. The Panda Bear was that dude played for the Giants. Was that not? No, Sandoval. That's the Panda Bear. Alonso's the Polar Bear. Get your bears right, Joe Hal. So first base is in the crosshairs, and yes, there he is, Mr. Bryce Harper, Mr. 330. That's right, Mr. $330 million. 261 batting average, 27 home runs, 75 RBIs, and an 844 OPS. Nothing else to write down there. I have no other accolades. Bryce Harper had himself in the, I guess, you know how I feel about Bryce Harper. Listen, there's a couple of things. I mean, Bryce Harper is still a name. He still can get people in the seats. His offensive ability was not $330 million worth this year. And honestly, in my opinion, it hasn't been there since 2022. Is there concerns that Bryce Harper is beginning his decline to the end of his career? Absolutely. But I don't see a way to get away from him. I don't. Again, I want him gone. I just want to go on the record and say I would be like Joe Hale. I'd want him gone. If it's feasible and somebody would take him, and I floated the scenario of maybe sending him to Vegas, for some or any of the prospects the A's have, because they got a lot of them, a lot of good ones. I'll take a lower end prospect at this point. But floating him to Vegas, creating a buzz in Vegas with the A's. The A's are not that far away. The A's are about 2 years away from being a legit contender. And that's lining up with their time to be moving into their new stadium in Las Vegas. Bryce Harper can be the new face of that franchise. Hometown boy does good, so to speak, So, and the A's have the money. They could take on the contract or a portion of it. So I'm not telling you that don't float that idea out there. And if a team like the A's wants to take him on and he agrees to it, because, of course, he's got the no trade thing, then go ahead and try to make that happen. But living in reality, let's say they can't do that. Let's say that no one out there is stupid enough to take on Bryce Harper's money for the performance that he's been putting up over the last 3 seasons. Let's say we're stuck with him. It was not a good year. Now, is part of that because Bryce Harper could never get comfortable with anybody protecting him? And we saw how that was criminally done in the NLDS with Alec Boehm batting fourth. That was just terrible. Is Bryce Harper a candidate, or is he a product of not enough support around him? Was the types of pitches Bryce Harper was seeing a product of not caring not caring if he got on base because they didn't fear who was behind him? I don't know. Possibly. It sure as hell didn't help him. I'm not sure if it hurt him, but overall, Bryce Harper had a very uninspiring 2025 at the plate. His defense at first base, I can live with, except if he's involved in a rundown. Then he's got some issues. But defensively at first, he's okay. As a bat, he's totally not a good season. But if anybody out there has a way to move off of Bryce Harper, I'm all ears. But I am going to operate under the impression that we can't move off of Bryce Harper. Again, it's not that I want to keep him. I just don't know how I get rid of him. So Bryce Harper stays, but he doesn't stay at first base because I am not, and a little spoiler to this exercise, Kyle Schwarber in my team is historical, gone. Not paying the money to retain Kyle Schwarber. I'm not doing it. I'm taking that money elsewhere. Right? Kyle Schwarber can go. I'll give him his gold watch when he comes back from whatever team he's playing for. We'll put a little tribute video up, do all those great things. But Kyle Schwarber is gone in my world, on my team. Bryce Harper will be my DH in 2026, hands down. He is my DH. So theoretically, I am getting rid of him off of first base, but I'm retaining him on the baseball team because I just don't know who's going to take that contract off my hands. So let's operate on the fact that that Bryce Harper is staying, but he's not going to be my first baseman. What do I do now? So let's look at some of the candidates out there that I could potentially replace Bryce Harper with at first base. First up, Josh Naylor. 295 batting average between the Arizona Diamondbacks and Seattle Mariners. 20 home runs, 92 RBIs at 815 OPS. He'll be a UFA at the end of the season. His market value is $15 million. He's a left-handed bat, which, is not necessarily, we need a right-handed bat with power. He's not a power hitter. He's a left-handed bat with power. He'll be 29 in June of 2026. Struck out 83 times in 543 at-bats. So he puts the ball in play. 20 home runs, and that big 92 RBIs. That's what I'm looking at that's making me salivate. 92 RBIs, 295 batting average, and he only struck out 83 times. For $15 million on a 1 or 2 year deal, Josh Naylor is very attractive to me to bring here and put him on first base. Now, the problem is the left-handed situation. This lineup is sunk with left-handed hitters. We need some diversity with that. But Josh Naylor is definitely on my wish list to replace Bryce Harper at first. Again, Bryce Harper remains on the team, but he's going to be my DH as I will say goodbye to Kyle Schwarber. So Josh Naylor is candidate number 1 to replace Bryce Harper at first base. My second candidate, well, it's the name that everyone's talking about. Why not? Pete Alonso, 272 batting average, 38 home runs, 126 RBIs for him last season, 871 OPS. He declined his player option with the Mets for next season, so he'll hit the open market. He's got a market value of about $25 million. He is a right-handed power bat, not right-handed bat with power. No, he's a power bat. And this would also make up for the 2016 draft fiasco where the Phillies selected Mickey Moniak first overall and could have selected Pete Alonso and a bunch of other players that would have worked out. We all remember that, right? Mickey Moniak, number 1 overall. The Phillies had it and totally whiffed on that. I think Alonso went in the 4th round or 2nd round or something like that. This would make up for that. And not only that, it would stick it to the New York Mets. Can you imagine the instant rivalry? Not instant rivalry, but the heightened rivalry between the Phillies and Mets if Pete Alonso somehow would come to Philadelphia? I mean, you couldn't. It's like must-see TV every time the Phillies and Mets would play, especially at Citi Field. He makes up for the loss of Kyle Schwarber, right? And I think Pete Alonso, 126 friggin' RBIs, and that's comparable to what Schwarber drove in. Obviously, we're not talking 58 home runs. We're talking 38. I can live with that. And 871 OPS. So if we're looking to essentially replace Kyle Schwarber, Josh Naylor wouldn't be the guy, right? So if we're looking to replace Kyle Schwarber, Pete Alonso would be that guy, in my opinion. But I want to change the DNA of this squad. I don't want a power home run or nothing type of squad. I want to go a different direction. What do? Do I go with Josh Naylor, who's a left-handed bat with power? Or do I go with Pete Alonso, who is a power bat? And I'm going to tell you, are the phone lines open today? They might be, Ricky. Let me get through this last segment, or this first segment. I spent hours of deliberation about what I want to do here. And I came up with this. Pete Alonso is the direction I want to go. It's going to make sense a little bit further down the line as I reveal this lineup to you. So Pete Alonso, with a $25 million market value based off of his last contract, is where I'm going at right now. What's the reason why I'm saying adios to Kyle Schwarber? I'm replacing Kyle Schwarber with Pete Alonso, but I'm moving Bryce Harper to Kyle Schwarber's position as your primary DH. And the polar bear will become the new first baseman of the Phillies, making up for the wrong of us not drafting him in 2016 when we could have. So there you have it. Bryce Harper stays, but he goes to the DH spot. Pete Alonso comes in and becomes our new first baseman. So there you have it. That's it. That's first base. So we got through the manager and the first baseman. Tomorrow, second base, and so on and so forth. So there was the segment of the Phillies offseason, who stays and who goes and why. First base edition. Harper's out, but not off the team. He's out of the position. He goes to DH. Pete Alonso comes in and plays first base, and we say adios, amigos, to Mr. Kyle Schwarber, and that $30 million a year he's looking for, allegedly, in his new contract. So, what's your thoughts on that? Drop your comments in, and as Ricky Deals requested, here they go. The phone lines are now open. If you want to join the conversation face to face or voice to voice, whatever you choose, go ahead and jump in on the link there. It'll take you backstage, and you can come in here and we can talk about it, or anything else you want to talk about. So there you have it. Tomorrow night we will do second base. A little preview of second base, of course. The occupant of second base, Mr. Bryson Stott, 147 games played in 2025, 257 batting average, 13 home runs, 66 RBIs, a 719 OPS, committed 3 errors all season, 91 strikeouts in 499 at-bats for about 18%, and he's under team control through 2027. So we're going to discuss Bryson Stott tomorrow and whether he should stay or he should go and why. Might be pretty surprised where I come out on this one. You might be pretty surprised. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow here on the program. So make sure you're there and every night until we complete this thing. I mean, we're going to run this thing to the ground, man. We're going to talk about every position. We're going to talk about the 5 starting pitchers and the bullpen. And we already done the manager and first baseman. So Bryce Harper's out, but he stays. He just becomes a new DH. Hello, Ricky Deal. How are you tonight, my friend?
I'm good.
Good to hear from you tonight. Good to see you rocking some Sixers garb, Ricky. Bryce Harper, does he stay or does he go?
Need to go.
Bryce Harper needs to go. That's interesting, Ricky. You're coming out from a different side of all this. I thought you'd be more the biggest Phillies fans I know, man. And you're advocating for the going of Bryce Harper. Now, Ricky, I don't know if you heard that last segment, but I agree with you to an extent. I think he comes off of first base, but he stays on the team. He's a DH, and Pete Alonso is our new first baseman. Ricky, would you be happy to see Pete Alonso wearing Phillies pinstripes? Yeah, I think a lot of us would. And it would check a lot of blocks for me as well, Ricky. Ricky, one last question, and I'll let you go. Sixers, 25-26 this coming season. We are going to do a post-game show here on the network. Pat Bernard will be hosting it. Do the Sixers make the playoffs this year?
No.
Nothing left to say about that, Ricky. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to make it, but we'll have to wait and see. Ricky, thank you very much for joining me tonight. See you again tomorrow. Awesome, Ricky. That's Ricky Deal, the man, the myth, The absolute legend. So, all right. What's the next caller we got? Joe Hale joins me. Joe, good evening.
I just wanted to say, if Bryce Harper does get traded, would you take Max Muncy?
No.
Huh?
No.
I can't hear you.
No. Can you hear me? Joe Hale cannot hear me. Can you hear me, Joe? Joe, can you hear me?
Hold on. I'll exit out and I'll try it again.
All right. Joe Hale's going to come back out, go out and come back in. I think I can, you guys can still hear me, right? Joe, you there? Oh, Joe's out. All right. Well, as we wait for Joe Hale, interesting question about Max Muncy. 5 years ago, 100%. Just not a believer anymore. He's getting what's he, 55 years old? So let's take a look at Max and his situation here with the Dodgers. Bring this bad boy up. Spot Tracks is the best thing in the world. I looked at Max when I was putting this thing together for first base. Where is he at? He's down here somewhere. He was in the bottom of this list. I mean, there's a few. There he is. He's got a club option, and of course, I guess we're talking trade. Comes at about a $14 million market value. He's 35 right now. Alonso's 30. Naylor's 28. I mean, listen, there's a few attractive first basemen. Miguel Andujar, he's a third baseman, but there's a few attractive first base options out there. I won't deny that, but Muncy's a little too old for me at this particular point of his career. Joe, there? Can you hear me now?
Yes, it was my.
All right. Absolutely. It wasn't me, Joe.
No, Ricky would try to blame me, but would you try to trade him to Arizona?
For who? Who we trade him to Arizona for?
Prospects.
So, Joe, again, I'm not against, if they can find a way to get off that money, that's great. But I don't think there's nobody out there that's going to take the money. They'll take a portion of it, but the Phillies are going to be stuck with that money. Here's the thing. I don't think Bryce Harper is completely kaput. I think he's on his way. I think he's coming down. And I don't know about 2 or 3 years from now. But if I decrease Bryce Harper's responsibility, if I just put him on the bench and make him the DH, I honestly think that might give you some extra years out of Bryce Harper. He can focus on hitting. He doesn't have to worry about fielding anymore. I'm going to try to do everything I can to squeeze anything out of Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper had a terrible year this year. Not worth the $330 he's getting paid. Absolutely not. And I'm telling you, yes, if there's a taker, and I mentioned the Vegas scenario, if you can somehow talk the A's into making him the face of the new franchise, Vegas has got nothing but good prospects in their system. Even their worst prospect is a good prospect. And that's what happens when you're bad for 20 years. You accumulate all these upper draft picks. I would move them 100%, but I don't want to blow up this team. I don't want to move them to move them. I want to move them for some value, and I don't know if I can. So if I bring Alonso in, make him the first baseman, or even Naylor, honestly, Alonso or Naylor would work for me.
Nobody. Go ahead.
No, finish. Go ahead. I've been ranting.
Nobody said Ryan O'Hearn.
Yeah, Ryan O'Hearn is out there. He's going to also be a where's he at? Now, way down here on this list. I just saw him. 32 years old, and he comes with about 11 million hit, but he's primarily been a DH. So I know, again, in my scenario, I'm looking to replace Schwarber because Harper stays, but Schwarber goes. One or the other is staying or going. Do you feel me? I don't want both of them back because that's not going to change this team at all. It's going to be right back to the same crap. So either we're going to re-sign Schwarber and try like a Dickens to trade Harper, which is going to be impossible. The easier thing would be to do is just let Schwarber go and then try to bring somebody in to help out Harper on first and move Harper to DH.
I think Schwarber comes back.
I guarantee you he does not. 100% guarantee it. Not for $30 million a year.
I see the Phillies moving on for the next guy you're going to talk about tomorrow.
Bryson Stott?
Yes.
Bryson Stott's an interesting case because he is under team control, but there's a second baseman out there that I want. And honestly, with Bryson Stott, Alec Bohm. What's that?
Does he play for the Tigers?
No. No, you talking about Torres?
Yes.
And he's one of them, but he's not the number one candidate. But Torres is one of my candidates. But Bryson Stott and Alec Bohm both fit in the same boat with me. I know they're still in their team control, and it's easy money, it's easy retainability for the next couple of years. But do either one of them fit long term to the Phillies' plans?
No.
So get rid of them.
Yes.
That's the case. You know what I mean?
You asked Ricky if the Sixers make the playoffs.
I did.
Yes, they do.
How? Give me a scenario.
Embiid's healthy.
What about George? Does he have to be healthy too?
No. Half of the year.
So Embiid and Maxey are going to run this team to the playoffs?
I'm going to give you some breaking news. The Sixers are bringing back their old mascot, by the way.
Hip hop. Yep, I saw that.
And my buddy went to the Flyers game. This is why I asked the question. I want to see that black uniform come back with the white on top.
Yeah. That was the very first alternate jersey.
A lot of people, because Rick Tocchet played in that uniform, believe it or not.
Yes, he did. I know. I saw him playing in it. Dave Poole and Tim Kerr. No, I don't think Tim Kerr did. Brian Propp did. No, it came around in like the late 80s. It was their first alternate uniform. I thought you meant the all black one with the orange armbands and stuff. Yeah, no, they wear. No, that I have that jersey in my closet actually. That with the white and the black. I have that. I think everybody has that.
I have an orange Cooch jersey. I'm actually going to the Flyers Wives Carnival this year.
Well, that's February time frame.
Yes.
I used to do that as a kid all the time. A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Eagles point. Mitchell, game time decision. Adoree Jackson, why?
Healy Ringo, why? Eli Ricks, why? Marcus Epps, why? Who else are we going to talk about and throw in the word why? Cooper DeJean's going to have to play out wide this week. He's going to have to come out of the slot. Not because
Cooper, try to Jefferson, you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what they got to put on him. If they put anybody else on Jefferson, I'm not saying Cooper's going to lock him down, but Cooper will have the better chance of locking him down than anybody else on that secondary. If Quinyon Mitchell's, and even if Quinyon Mitchell is a game time decision, do you really throw him out there against Justin Jefferson?
No.
It's not like we're going up against the Giants and they cooked them. I mean, no, you don't do that. So it's going to be an interesting weekend for the Eagles.
Depends what quarterback for Minnesota.
Yeah, and that's the big wild card for the Vikings. And I'm not saying it's a guarantee slam dunk the Eagles lose this football game, but it's more of a 50-50 than anything else.
Bring up Penn State real quick, and I know you're on budget and time. I can see Freeman from Notre Dame going.
I saw that today. I also saw Matt Rule. They interviewed him while sitting as the head coach of Nebraska, talking about another Big Ten school. Nick Saban, go bigger, go home.
Deion Sanders.
No, God, no. You turn that thing into a circus. No.
Warren Sapp for them. That's
and Marshall Faulk, the whole crew.
That's Marshall Faulk is Deion's offensive coordinator.
I know, and Warren Sapp's out there with him too.
Yeah, defense.
Yeah.
Quarterback coach is Byron Leftwich.
Exactly. We're going to bring the whole group out? No, they'll turn that thing into a mockery, man. Absolutely not. All right, Joe. Listen, you have a good night, man. We'll talk tomorrow, all right?
Yep.
All right. Joe Hale. Deion Sanders to Penn State. It's crazy talk. Right, Ryan? Deion Sanders to Penn State?
No. Get out of here. Not at all.
Ryan, what's going on tonight, man?
All right. So we're talking Phillies.
Talk whatever you want.
It's just you and me think so much alike when it comes to like how this lineup's been constructed so much over the years. It's like, why can't we be on the same show talking this stuff? Because it's like, I know we think so much alike. It's like, it would be great to be able to talk Phillies together. Like, cause we agree so much, but,
maybe make that happen, Ryan. Never say never.
But like we talk so much about this lineup construction and how they strike out too much. They can't manufacture runs, and it's swinging for the fences, and that's all it is. It's like I know, like I liked. You're gonna say there's not too many hitters like this nowadays. You know, when I brought up Bobby Abreu being a hitter first, how he would he had enough power, but it was his overall hitting that always stood out. He always hit like almost 2 times the amount of doubles to home runs. He was very, very disciplined at the plate. And he saw a lot of pitches. He never overswung, but he was a run producer. You know, he was a run producer, but he was a hitter. And
Absolutely.
I know you're going to say there's not that many of those in the league today, but
there's more than
like,
you think. And Ryan, I think there's more than you think.
Yeah. And then like we talk about like even when it comes to the draft with the Phillies, why don't they have a plan like when it comes to like I know it's easier said than done, but like why don't we have a plan of trying to find certain players that are and have like a plan in place? Be like, all right, we're going to go to these players. We're not just going to look at them further offense and further hitting, but we're going to really talk to them deeply down. And we're not going to make it obvious as far as what we look for in players, but we're going to try to talk them and make it like secretive to them. Be like, all right, so what type of hitter are you? How is this with you? And try to lead it into that to see if that's the type of guy they are. And don't just make it so obvious because players will say anything just because, you know, we got to have a plan in place of making this roster.
Yeah.
Because it's like we like hitting home runs will come, but when you're always trying to hit home runs, it's not going to last. You got to be a team that wants to hit first and have plate discipline. So we still see teams doing that today, that teams are not about home runs, but they have enough power and they do hit home runs, but it's their overall hitting that stands out first. And that's what I want to see with the Phillies team.
Absolutely. And that's the unstructured lineup, the unbalanced lineup that was brought here. And Nick Castellanos might have been the poster child for that. I don't think he was brought here to be a power hitter, but somehow along the way, he decided that's what he's going to be. And that kind of throws off the unstructured. Alec Bohm is also another victim of that. He's out there trying to swing for the fences. These players, if Bohm and Castellanos played baseball within the foundations of their own people and player, they'd be very good players to have on your team. It's just not working here, and the way our lineup was structured just did not. If they were struggling that way, if they were trying to hit home runs and they failed, we had no safety net. We had nowhere to go. We had no one to insert into the lineup because it wasn't structured to begin with. It was imbalanced to begin with. Now it's even worse because now they're not hitting. Now everyone else goes cold. It was a symptomatic problem up and down the lineup. And moving forward, and I hope you stick around for the rest of this little exercise that we're going to do by going basically position. I do think you can change this without blowing it up. And it's going to lean heavily on the internal part of this because I don't think the Phillies are not going to be – they'll bring in some free agents. And I think that Kyle Schwarber's money is going to be the deciding factor of why Kyle Schwarber doesn't come back. I don't think they're going to be able to close the gap. And they got to take that money somewhere. They can do the old Billy Bean money ball and get 3 players for 1 Kyle Schwarber. We'd be better off in the long run. And you just can't fall in love with – there's no guarantee Schwarber's going to hit 58 home runs next year. Saquon Barkley ain't rushing for 2,000 yards this year, so there's no guarantee of any of that. We got to try to get more diverse, balanced, a true 4-hitter. And again, I don't know if this is Rob Thompson. And that's another thing. This nonsense about batting him first, second, whatever. He's got to go because of that stigma. And the fact that we retained Rob Thompson, take away Kyle Schwarber. So at least there's one player who's not going to demand where to hit in that lineup. And maybe that helps us out even more because it was criminal that Schwarber was not put in that 4-hole 3 years ago and left there. And all this up and down with the leadoff, bat and second. It's terrible, terrible baseball, Ryan.
Yeah, and talking about like another guy when we like back in the day, we had Placido Polanco too.
Yeah.
So if we had like a Bobby Abreu and a Placido Polanco type guy and 2 of those types of guys in this lineup, maybe a guy that does hit home runs, that hits a lot of doubles, is an run producer, but then a Placido Polanco type guy too that hits all fields. I would love to have Luis Arraez in this lineup because that's the type of player he is. He's a hitter. He might not strike out a lot. He might not walk a lot, but he's a hitter. So have that type of guy in here too, along with like like the guy I'm talking about, that's the run producer, hits lots of doubles, but he still hits 20 to 25 home runs. That's why, like, I don't want the Phillies just to go after guys just because they're available as free agents. If they're not that, if just because they're the guys available, don't feel pressured. If we have to wait longer, then do so. Like, I don't want to just bring guys in because they're the ones available in free agency. If just because that's available, do more due diligence and be serious about a plan. And if you got to take more effort, you got to do more studying. You got to have that plan in place. Don't just go after guys just because they're available. But just because you need something so desperately, and just have anybody available, and then go after them. Even through trades too, you got to be doing your due diligence. If you have a plan in place, you can do it. It's just going to take more effort.
No,
absolutely,
absolutely.
And it's just so when we come to Rob Thompson, see, it's been the same exact thing all these years, but coaches can only do so much. And we made Trey Turner this year maybe less home runs and be more of a hitter, but when it comes to this lineup and anything, you can't just keep making players try to be something and bring somebody in and bring players in and try to make them something they're not. That's what the Phillies have been trying to do for too long is, we can make them into this. We can try to change them, but it's not going to last. They're going to revert back to who they were, or they're not going to be satisfied. They're not going to be happy to try to do something they're not. And it's just,
I agree. 100%.
We got to make this roster construction better, because if you're going to keep bringing the same guys back over and over, it's going to be the same thing in the playoffs like we've been seeing. And even heading into the playoffs, we had a winning streak going, but they were almost like 5 for 60 something with runners in scoring position. So you got to be able to manufacture runs and go with the pitch, choke up like JT Realmuto did in the playoffs. He was so much fun to watch because he did that. You see how much he hit to the opposite field. Yep. He wasn't over swinging, and it's just, we need that type of lineup. We don't got to play small ball where we bunt all the time.
No,
you can play small ball and go with the pitch, shorten your swing. So when people think we talk about small ball, we're only talking about bunting. No, like, you can see a lot of pitches, go with the pitch, choke up, shorten your swing, go up the middle, but home runs will come. Home runs will come.
Yep, they will.
And it just,
and they'll come easier if you're not forcing it. It'll come easier if you're letting them come and not trying to overswing and try to manufacture something where it's not. No, I agree. And we saw it in this series. We've seen it throughout the playoffs, throughout history. It's not, you got game 3 where they hit 3 home runs, they score 8 runs, but then when you spread out the rest of the offense over the other 3 games, it was putrid. I don't want 8 runs in one game when you win 8-2 or whatever. I need those runs spread out, and you know what I mean? So you're right. It comes down to balance, and then the stop promoting. And I don't know if this was because hitters were getting hot and Rob really truly didn't know where to put him in the lineup, because he always said, for example, Bryson Stott to me is a leadoff guy. But, he gets cold, so I'm going to move him down to 9. He's getting hot again, and we move him back up to 1. Stop doing that. You got to make a lineup. And I'm not telling you stick with the same lineup for 162 days or games, but you got to be a consistent lineup. Your 8 hitter is your 8 hitter. He doesn't promote himself out of that 8 hitting hole because he gets hot. He is your 8th. He's the guy that's in your lineup batting 8th for a reason, whatever that reason may be. You don't promote yourself out of that hole as you get hot. It screwed things up for both the player and the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we had such a great pitching staff. I feel so bad for the pitchers because they did so well, and then people want to go blaming. Oh, well, they didn't pitch good enough, but
no, amazing.
You say to guys all the time, on here, and even with Pat and them leading up to the playoffs, he thought it was going to be the pitching that was going to be the issue.
No way. There's no
way
that was going to be.
But going into the playoffs, I was not scared one bit against other teams. I was scared that we were going to let ourselves down because of the same issues we've had the last 4 years, and we saw that the hitting. It's been 100%. The same issue, and it's so frustrating, and I feel so bad for the pitching staff. But I got to be honest, when it does come to Rob Thompson with his over analytics stuff, he's got to stop that. Like, because the thing is, like, he overthinks a lot of the times. Like, where was Tanner Banks this whole entire playoffs? Like, he would have been the perfect one to come in with the guys inherited because he's so good at doing that. And like, and all year long, we saw how bad Kirkering is when it comes to pressure situations. So why would you like put him in?
Yeah, the funny
And
thing,
then-
though, Kirkering got out of that. He did get out of it. He just made a
Yeah.
bonehead defensive play. No, he did. It was a dribbler back to the mound. He got out of the jam. Just made a bad play. You know?
So I'm not bringing it down to that. We got to make it. We got to make significant changes and make this roster more about being contact hitters and going with the pitch. And that or it's just we can't keep bringing these same guys back. We got to have a plan in place. And then people are going to say it's Kevin Long. Kevin Long's a great guy, but he can only do so much. You can't make guys into something.
I agree, Ryan, 100%. Listen, man, thanks for tuning in, Ryan. I appreciate you jumping on. I hope you come back. Every night we'll be doing this, opening the phone lines. So keep listening, Ryan, and thank you for your support throughout the year, man.
Absolutely, man.
All right, Ryan Swope, man. Jeez, that's what I'm talking about. Come on, phone lines are open, people. At least for another 25 minutes or so. But Ryan brings up some great stuff and is 100%. All the things that we've been talking about throughout the seasons, and it's what's more frustrating is it's not just this season. It's been last season, season before that. Every season since the World Series, it's been the same thing. We go into the offseason. Well, we got to get more balance. We got to get more diverse. We got to get hitters in here that know how to pull the ball, move the ball. And Ryan's another great point. When we say small ball, it's not necessarily about bunting or sack flying. It's about, choking up, shortening your swing, lacing a single over the shortstop, putting something down the line, something inside the park that moves runners along. That's really what small ball is. It's not bunting or sack flying. It's anything but a home run. It's singles hitting, doubles hitting, all great stuff. And it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that we're in the situation that we're in. And yet here we are staring at another offseason and another potential opportunity or a potential failure with Dave Dombrowski. And I know the Rob Thompson, the rehiring, a lot of the things me and Ryan were talking about were managerial things too. And I'm adamant about this. I kept track of this all season long. When we do our 2025 Fighting's Final Review show, the frequency of different players leading off. I think it was Trey ended up doing it the most, but you had Stott up there. You had Schwarber, I think 10 times led off this year. Bader came up there because of injury, I guess. And you had Harper leading off one. So it's got to be a little bit more stability within that lineup. And, it's got to be more of a traditional type lineup. And as I said, I would love to be able to put all the stuff up on the screen right now and tell you this is how I think it's going to be. But, it's TV. I got to build it up, the drama, the suspense. I think what you're going to see from me at the end of this, and it'll probably be about 10 days to kind of get through all this, but I think it does answer those questions about getting different types of hitters. You need power hitters, 100%. You got to have power hitters, but I don't need a lineup that is saturated 1 through 6 with guys who want to hit home runs. I don't want that. It doesn't work. We can be the 100% eyewitnesses to that. It doesn't work. I need some diversity. I need people that can put the ball in play and move runners along. Traditional cleanup hitters, traditional leadoff guys, traditional number 9 hitters in the new baseball, stuff like that. So Ryan brings up great stuff. Thank you, Ryan, for joining tonight. Joe Hale, Ricky Deal, all of you guys for joining in tonight. Keep the phone calls coming, everybody. You can hop in. The lines are open still. Let's get into the of the night segment. Yeah, that's right. It's the other night segment, the part of the show where we discuss a Flyers prospect, a Phillies prospect, a Flyers draft target, a Phillies draft target. We spotlight players from the Phillies or the Flyers. And of course, the calendar is in October. We're not spotlighting any Phillies players anymore. Not until the spring. We're not talking MLB draft yet. Not talking NHL draft yet. And that pretty much just leaves, we've already spotlighted the Flyers player. So that leaves us with the Flyer prospect portion of the night segment. And it's in full swing. We've done about 4 of them already. And tonight will be number 5. And let's get it on. Here's our Flyer prospect spotlight of the night. And that would be Zvezda Moskva from the VHL. Flyers drafted him in the 6th round of the 2024 NHL draft, a 5'10", 165-pound right wing. His handling skill is strong. Tons of attacks up to the inside and the ability to make defenders look silly. Kind of undersized again. It's a common theme, especially with our European players. But, it's okay. He's going to develop and build himself to a better frame and a better player. Currently, he is playing in the MHL for the Krasnaya Armenia Moskva. And so far, 6 games through the season, 3 goals, 1 assist, and 4 points with a 0 plus-minus. So there you have it. One of our European players playing in Mississippi. Now, he plays in Russia, obviously. So there you go. I know it's a little misleading with the slide. It's not Ila Potovov. It's Zvezda Moskva. I apologize for that. I'll get on the production staff for screwing that thing up bad. But there you have it. It's our Flyer spotlight, our Flyer prospect spotlight of the night. And that was brought to you by the fine folks over here at the Clear the Ice program, our Flyers postgame show, in full swing as well. Tomorrow night, or Thursday night, it's just Tuesday, right? Thursday night, Mike Lotto has you postgame Flyers Jets, and I will be on the call Saturday for the Wild game. Pat had you last night for the Panthers game. And we will get you covered for 82 games, hopefully more. Hopefully we actually have a conundrum in April like we had back in October, like we had last week, where we have to manage 4 or 5 post-game shows on one night due to Flyers playoff hockey and Sixers playoff basketball. Because, yes, as I mentioned to Ricky Deal, I will make this public. We got a few programming notes on the It's a Wrap Sports Network to announce. There will be a Sixers postgame show beginning on October 22nd. I think that's when the Sixers start, right? Pat Bernard will be your host and your guide through the Sixers season. There will also be some changes with the wraparound starting in early December. Pat Bernard is coming off the wraparound. He will be getting his own show, probably on Saturday mornings. We haven't really worked out the details yet, but we're working them out. And Big Al Zafiri will be taking over primary host duties of the wraparound starting in early December. He's going to change some things around about the show. We may move it off of that 10:30 time slot. It will stay on Friday nights, but it may come down a little bit earlier in the night. And, of course, on this program, the final word, starting on November 9th, we are moving from 10 o'clock to 9 o'clock, Sundays through Thursdays. So we're going to our winter hours. No more post-game obligations all night long because of no Phillies. So we're going to go to an earlier start time starting on November 9th here on the final word. So all that stuff is a coming to a theater near you, and all the other great programming we have on the network. So let's wrap up the show. Let's finish it off with some style, my favorite part. Yeah, it's MattyB's card review. It's the best part of waking up. Not Folgers in your cup. No, it's MattyB's card review. As I take one of my best sports cards from my collection, and we have some fun talking nostalgia, financial value, intrinsic value, and just have some fun, maybe reminiscing about where in the world I was or time of my life I was when I got this card. And a lot of these cards, for those of you out there, and I'm sure most of you who are not even into sports cards or in the collecting, when you see certain cards, baseball, football, but it doesn't really matter what card, I find it more in the baseball world. But when I see a certain baseball card, it always elicits certain memories from my life, mainly childhood, obviously, mainly growing up on the streets of Northeast Philly in Mayfair, and terrorizing the neighborhood and stealing all the girls. That's right. It's what I did. But it brings back a lot of memories from my childhood. So that's part of the fun part about doing this segment is all the nostalgia that brings back. And tonight, we're going to head into the world of the Fleer baseball card. Fleer. Remember Fleer? They haven't been doing baseball cards or any cards really since 2005 when they were bought out or basically went bankrupt. Upper Deck bought the name from them. So they're no longer, I guess, I don't even know if they're producing cards anymore, to be honest with you. I haven't seen anything from Fleer in a long time. But Fleer at one point was a pretty hot commodity in the card world. The company actually is out of Philadelphia. It was headquartered there when it was founded back in 1885, and it was not a card company initially. It produced bubble gum. Fleer is the creators of Double Bubble. You guys know what Double Bubble is, right? You know, that gum, they made it. And when they made Double Bubble, they established the color pink as the color of that gum, and it became the standard for bubble gum everywhere for some odd reason. But little history of Fleer. But back when they made baseball cards, they were trying to compete with Topps. And of course, Topps being the king, they did a pretty decent job. They've had some decent sets throughout the years. Some of them financially don't measure up to Topps for some odd reason, whatever the reason may be. But tonight we're going into Fleer. We're going way back to the year 1990, and we're going to a card that hits home for me in the 1990 Fleer set. So let's bring it up here. The 1990 Lenny Dykstra. Yep. Lenny Dykstra wearing his Phillies pinstripe maroon old school home uniform, standing on the Veterans Stadium carpet. That is definitely the vet. I can tell by the dugout. I can tell by the lip of the dugout. That's Veterans Stadium. And when I look at this card, it brings back memories of this pitcher. Not that I remember the actual pitcher being taken, but this was from 1989, and it was from the post-trade of Lenny Dykstra. That was the year Dykstra was traded to the Phillies. So this was from the very beginning of Lenny Dykstra's career as a Philadelphia Philly. And, of course, Dykstra has cemented himself as being one of the more toxic yet lovable baseball players that's ever played here. Part of the 1993 Miracle team. When he broke into Major League Baseball with the Mets, he was a prime contributor to their World Championship run in 1986, and definitely part of the second greatest trade in Phillies history. I think when we did our greatest trades in Phillies history, the Lenny Dykstra, Roger McDowell for Juan Samuel trade was either number 2 or 3. Of course, number 1 is Steve Carlton, but this one was probably 2 or 3. This trade, bringing Lenny here in that summer of 89, and that summer was very instrumental in assembling what would become the 93 team. You know, we also acquired Kruk in 89, and we acquired Dykstra. The Phillies went from also-rans to perennial World Series contender in a series of a few moves that summer, and Lenny Dykstra was definitely part of that. This card is utterly worthless on any sort of open card market. I think the most I've ever saw it for was about $2. Now, the design is pretty no frills. I mean, it's a, 3/4 of the card is the picture, and the border kind of is smaller than the picture as Lenny's big head is kind of going past the border. It's got a white background with the Fleer 90 logo on the corner. Nothing really, and perhaps this is the reason why Fleer cards were never really that marketable, but this card does scream of nostalgia, especially with the Phillies old school uniform, Veterans Stadium, and of course the Phillies logo there on the right-hand side. So a lot of nostalgia when I look at this card, a lot of fond memories of my teenage years at this point in my life when I look at this baseball card, and a great player, though very toxic and very somebody you wouldn't want to bring home. I give you that. But when he was a player, especially here, he was the epitome of what it means to be a Philadelphia sports star. That dirty uniform was a norm for Lenny Dykstra. So definitely one of my more favorite cards, and it's a Phillies card. So obviously it's going to get a special place in my heart. So there you have it. The 1990 Fleer Len Dykstra on MattyB's card review. A card that is utterly worthless on the open market, but yet priceless in my heart. And that has us. So that's going to take us to the end of another great night. I want to thank Joe Hale, Ryan Swope, Ricky Deal, everyone else who chimed in and who participated tonight. Thank you. Good show. We never really got into the Eagles tonight, folks. I answered one question about the Eagles, about moving Cooper DeJean potentially out from the slot to the wide spot. But I'll tell you what, we'll lead off with the Eagles tomorrow night for our program, as we will be at that more applicable time of the week to talk Eagles football anyway, as we're about 3 days away or so from the start of Eagles Vikings. Phillies are still burning internal here on this program, and they will throughout the winter. I will keep their memory alive, and we will keep talking Phillies baseball until sometime on March 26, 2026, you hear those infamous words, play ball, down there at Citizen Bank Park against the Rangers. We'll keep the thing going as long as we can. And for those of you that are really looking and really jonesing for some Phillies affiliated baseball, don't forget about the Arizona Fall League. It is in full swing. And yes, I've been watching. The Phillies have sent 8 players from the minor league system to Arizona. They're not playing for the Desert Dogs this year, and that is a change. I want to be very clear. They're all playing for the Surprise Cigarros. Cigarros, I think that's how you say it. So if you're looking, and all you got to do is go on MLB.com's website, and you can find the Arizona Fall League games. Matter of fact, there's a game on right now, I think, and I think Surprise is playing. So if you're really jonesing for some more Phillies baseball, you have 8 players you can watch playing for the Surprise Cigarros of the Arizona Fall League. Currently doing battle through the middle part of November, as when the Arizona Fall League will conclude. And then we'll transition to the Mexican Winter League, the Dominican Winter League. That's right. It never stops here, as we will continue to watch prospect players and their development in the Philly system. So never fear. Baseball is truly a year-round sport, unfortunately. And you know, one last final note before I say adios. Obviously, when you look around at the landscape of baseball, the ALCS, NLCS are playing. I have not watched 1 second of it. I don't know if I will, to include the World Series. I have a hard time assimilating, when it doesn't involve the Phillies, and especially the way this season ended for the Phillies. But I'm sure I'll watch. But anyway, if you want to talk ALCS and LCS, I know what's going on. I just haven't really sat down and watched it. But we can definitely talk about it. We'll talk more tomorrow about anything you want, as we'll continue our Phillies off-season segment of who stays and who goes and why. We're through the manager, and we also did Bryce Harper. I don't want Rob Thompson here. Of course, Phillies have trumped me on that one. And I do want to keep Harper, but I don't want him playing first base. Pete Alonso, a right-handed power bat that is sorely needed for this lineup to start to bring balance back, is who I want to replace Harper. Tomorrow we'll talk second base, Bryson Stott, and should he stay or should he go and why? And if he does go, who do you replace him with? We'll get into that. And then we'll go around the diamond and we'll finish it up. And at the end of all of this, I'll present to you MattyB's 2026 Phillies lineup, complete with starting rotation, bullpen, and bench. I leave no stone unturned. So you guys have to stick around for that, and hopefully we'll get through it fast. Maybe some nights we'll do 2 positions at once if it kind of moves me. But yeah, we'll have some good TV out of that. You guys have a great rest of your night. Have a great tomorrow. Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, I'll be back. We also have the props, locks, and parlay boys tomorrow. Also the Pittsburgh Sports Deck. So the network's coming back to life tomorrow night. So make sure you're staying tuned and sticking by. We'll talk to you later.